Hello, my name is Joan Dee Wilson. I'm author and illustrator. I've been working on, I've got 4 picture books for ages, 3-year-olds love the pictures, 5-year-olds can read some of the words, and it goes into 8 years old. So I thought I'd read a little bit of one of them. This was the 3rd book that I did, the Blue Footies. And it got first place in the Purple Dragonfly Award. It also has 2 endorsements from conservation, international conservation groups, the Pacific Rim and the Seabird group. So this book is a conservationist kind of book, just to give children a little idea of some of the conservation issues that we will be facing. So there are 2 children there reaching into the water. Seabirds run along the water's edge, hungry for food washed ashore from the ocean beds. But seabirds, with their long, sleek beaks and beautiful webbed feet, plunge through the surface of the deep blue sea for clean sardines, fin delights. These fresh morsels swim beneath the waves of fish to the ocean deep. A feast indeed. So from the sky, seabirds dive. Stormy weather or calm, they race the nets of the fisherman's catch, and the hungry whales gulp for clean sardines, fin delights. With the salty ocean breeze comes the smell of clean sardines. So off they go, like flying acrobats with Mumford in the lead. These blue-footed boobies pull their wings back tight to their body, hold a breath, and target their dive for surprise. Underwater, with feet as flippers and feathers so smooth, they race for prey. Their eyes are like headlights to find these fish and try not to collide. Slurp one, maybe more, then back into the sky. They break for a breath of air again and again, day after day. Under and up they go. As they settle in for the night on the shore, 4 from the crowd spy something wrong. What is this debris? Bee shrieks. Where did it come from? Adds Tui. For us, it's kind of new, mumbles Blue. Then together they moan, this shore is our home. From far out in the ocean deep, the mighty waves bring trash to the beach. Mumford grunts as he examines the mess. It's toxic and ugly and stinks up our shore. He moves in for a closer look, not so much at the toenails, but, missed that page. But, what's in that orange bucket? He whispers to himself as he walks away. Tui hears him though, and loud like a trumpet, he warns Blue. Please don't eat stuff found on the beach. We only eat fish from the sea, adds Bee, just as the children have left. A blob of debris blows ashore. It snags Blue's foot to throw him down. He thrashes his wings and stomps his other foot, but the piece of garbage whips around tight. So then the children run to save the birds. The children have the blue feet, the blue boots, and the birds are tricked thinking they're one of them. When they take them off and try to help Blue, tangled in the garbage, they get scared. But all turns out well. They've saved the birds, and there's a strong conservation message here without being too strong for the young reader. So that is the Blue Footies.
Well, thank you, Joan, for sharing a passage from your book, The Blue Footies. And I want to remind everyone we are speaking with author Joan Dee Wilson, author and illustrator of 4 picture books. How did you get the idea with the Blue Footies?
Well, it was interesting. I was just watching a documentary about their food, the food chain, and they survive on sardines. So there's some ecology issues that sardines, if they're not in plenty, then there are different species that are jeopardized by that. So, and then they talked about how they dive into the sea, and it's just fascinating to watch this. And the fact, the Blue Footies is the title of this. The bird is called the blue-footed booby, which Spaniards were the first to see them, I think, in the 1200s when they sailed to the Galapagos region. Booby means clown. So they were named the clown bird because they're very awkward and they walk back and forth, left to right. And they thought that that was pretty unusual. So, but I did name my book, The Blue Footies.
Well, I think it's a great title, and it's a great way to introduce children to that part of the world off of Ecuador, the Galapagos Islands, and some of the unique creatures that we can find there. And who doesn't? You know, kids love animals. Any books about
Yeah.
animals are wonderful.
Yeah.
So you and I think it's nice the way you tied in the fact that the humans, the people, the children of the story were wearing uh, blue boots, which
Yes.
is also a play on words, and it's a way to introduce the humans and the birds together, and the story goes on. And that's one of the 4 picture books you have. Um, do the Blue Footies come out in any of the other books, or is there a possibility of
No,
a sequel?
no, but they are all bird themed. I love birds, and birds have such a unique place in our environment, and each of them have their own role in the world. My next book, well, the one preceding this, is the Snowy Loden, and this is about the owls that they breed in the northern Arctic, and so they're up there all summer when the days are long. They have almost 24 hours of daylight, as we know, and then they migrate south for summer breeding. But there is one Snowy Loden, a young fledgling, who does not want to. He does not want to migrate with the others, so he stays in the Arctic, and he almost dies. But Father North finds him just in time. Just in time. So Father North finds little Snowy Loden and takes him to the Northern Conservatory. And and he helps revive Snowy Loden. And then he takes him in his little shuttle, like a land hovercraft it is, to meet up with his family and friends. So that was a lot of fun to write and
So
illustrate.
it's a cute story that has the main character being the Snowy Loden, with some fiction in there of Father North saving him. Um, are there instances where some snowy lodens do not migrate? And is there some truth to this?
Well, the snowy Loden is his name, snowy owls, the most of them migrate, not all. Some of the adults stay. A lot of the young ones do migrate. So yeah, they do stay, but the ones that migrate go back and they breed in the north. But they follow their food source, and that being lemmings are their top of their favorite list. And
Okay.
so they're some years there are more lemmings than others. On a more scant years than they do, that affects their migration too. But my goal with my love for birds is just to plant a seed for the young reader to look at things that are outside of their normal familiar environment and think about birds that they've probably never seen before and how they migrate for their food. It's not to be just taken for granted. Every species has their own essential food that they need.
Well, sure, sure. And so here's another story that gives us besides the entertainment and lovely illustrations, it gives us an educational component as well with this, so that the child can learn something. And of course, that's a lot of what picture books are, is telling a
Yeah.
story with learning involved. Briefly go over the other two books that you have for children.
Okay, now this is my last one that I did, and it's kind of it's more a little bit less about ecology. This is Stay Warm Tonight. It's about flying squirrels, which we do have in Michigan, and a lot of people don't know. They're very reclusive. Flying squirrels don't really fly; they glide. A thin, furry layer of skin called the patagium is attached from their wrist to their feet. When they spring into the air and stretch out, it forms a kind of parachute for landing. These adorable little creatures with big black eyes move through moonlit forests searching for food and hiding from owls. And they glow pink in the dark at night by ultraviolet light. I hope you enjoyed this story about flying squirrels and who find safety in a loft up high in the winter. Okay, it was just recently that a biologist discovered that under ultraviolet light, these little guys in the night glow pink.
Wow.
That's pretty fascinating, I thought. So warmth awaits far away through a broken window just inside of a loft up high. They jump and glide in the woods as the winter wind howls like a lonely coyote and the hoot of an owl is near. A perfect hideout under the roof for this group of gliders to stay warm tonight, till one eye opens from a ball of fur, another and two and four and a couple more. So they start chasing this little nut around for the fun, these young little squirrels, but you can see who's peeking in the window. Their main predator, the owl. So he broke through the window. Crack, wild and cold outside smells fill the air in the loft up high. Dive through the hole to the room below. The smallest goes first. Others follow. There's a hole in the attic. So they escape through that hole. One by one, these furry little parachutes jump, stretch, and glide to land. Big round eyes scan to find not a single nugget nor a bit of a crumb below. But this is what they find when they escape. So it's just kind of a fun book. Just a fun little wintry book. Also,
Was
I make
was that Snowy Loden chasing them?
well, I think he was inspired. I also wanted to mention my the Blue Footies. If you do find this in paperback, I have several coloring pages in the back. That's one of several.
So
But
kids have a chance to try illustrating themselves.
Right. They can just cut that page out in the back and color.
Well, that's great, and I enjoy your illustrations. You know, I'm a big fan of your work.
Thank
I
you.
think you're welcome, and the illustrations to me have a very classic look to them. And as an artist, how do you choose the colors, the medium that you create the imagery from?
Well, I like using, I go strong with the character. A lot of my work doesn't have detailed backgrounds, but they're character driven stories with the backdrop of ecology or conservation or uh, migration or food source. But I like using contrast, like you'll see in this, the Blue Footies, a lot of blue and white and green. And I think that kids really, that pops out to kids. And
Okay. And it's do you pencil them to start with, or how do you what's your process?
okay, so I do a lot of sketches for one image. And then I tighten up that sketch with my drawings and then get a nice tight line drawing. And then I put the color in. And then I put it into Photoshop, scan it into my computer, and I just kind of tweak it where it needs to be. And sometimes the Photoshop offers the advantage of being able to move things around. Or maybe I'll look at something and say, oh, that would work better on this page, and I'm able to flip it or put it into a night scene. And so I have a lot of play after I get them into Photoshop. But it is a long process. And there's a lot after I've done all my sketching and my work, put the color in. It's quite a bit of rejects at that point when I'm compiling it all and sequencing it into, because with children's books, they have to, when they open a page, they have to be interested enough to turn that page into the next, to continue the story on.
So
A lot of sequencing.
So in a children's picture book, you're telling us that the illustrations is the page turning
Yeah,
aspect, as in for an adult novel, right? It's a cliffhanger or
right.
some other movement in the story that you've got to flip the page to know what's happening via the words.
Yes.
And in a picture book, it's driven by the imagery. The children want to know what happens next
Yeah.
imagery wise.
Yes. And so that's a real trick too with writing picture books.
I'm sure now in many traditional picture books, the author will write the words and an illustrator will come in and illustrate those words with some direction from the author who wrote the words. But you, as an author illustrator, you're doing both. What comes first, the words or the illustrations?
It depends. I think the plot comes first, and then sometimes I'll just be sketching. I mean, I might do 100 sketches for 26 pages. And then I kind of like pick and choose, and the words kind of like just kind of like come alive as I'm working a lot of times. So it's both. It's like I've called it before, like a volley. Playing tennis, it's like it goes back and forth. And then there's a lot of editing and more editing. But like I said, I scrap a lot of my work if it doesn't make it to the final pages. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but this is a little different. I don't know if you can see that on the top shelf here. It's
Mm-hmm.
scrap, scrap metal is my 5th book. This one, it will be for a little, well, it's a chapter book for 7, 8, 9-year-olds. Now, these are some of these are going to be black and white. They're just some of the illustrations. But in something like this, there'll be like 20 illustrations in there. Now, there's a glare, so I don't know if you can see. But these will not be
There we go.
color. But there's a challenge of, like, there's a little girl and a man and her brothers. With something like that, you have to maintain the character with the gesture. You know, it has to be the same character throughout. You can't change their look or, you know, so it has to flow. I think that will end up with like 20 illustrations, black and white in it. And that'll be like 1,500 words. Almost done. It's about a robot who is found, broken robot found, and he's not broken. He was on pause. And so the children find him and he fits right in with their family. So
It sounds interesting, and I'll be intrigued to see where you go with a chapter book. We are speaking with Joan Dee Wilson, author, illustrator of 4 picture books. And if people want to find out more about you, your work, the conservation, and where to buy your books, I bet you have a website.
I do. And it is www.joandeewilson.com. And it's all lowercase, joandeewilson.com. I also have an Instagram, which is joanwilson55.
Sounds good, Joan. Thank you so much for joining us today and being one of our authors on the 2020 Authors Fair. This is our 2nd annual, held virtually through Rochester Writers. For Rochester Writers, I'm Michael Dwyer in partnership with the Rochester Hills Public Library. We'll have more coming up soon.
Thank you, Michael.